I was gonna do another Whack-a-Hovend, but the video I was looking at it didn't give me too much to work with. Nothing more than normal. So, instead we're going to look at this, Answers in Genesis video because I'm expanding my horizons on what I rip into. Most Christians don't know this about birds and dinosaurs. With a "this is what separates them" thumbnail. Yeah, let's just see what we get into.
Hey Talole, which is bigger, a bird or a dinosaur?
A dinosaur?
Dinosaur.
Dinosaur. I think dinosaurs would be bigger.
Is
Yeah, you're asking kids whose knowledge of dinosaurs is, what they see in books intended for kids. There were some really tiny dinosaurs, and there's some modest sized birds that are up towards human size. So there's a lot of overlap there. Because we always think of dinosaurs as most of them being the huge ones, but there's plenty of modest sized ones. The majority, I think, were honestly moderate sizes, but they're not the ones that are impressive. They're not the ones we always see, and they're also not the ones you find as stunning, when you're digging in the ground. You find just the little dinosaur, it's like, okay, here's the bones, but you pull up this giant ass femur or something, you're like, whoa, this is something else. And so those tend to be the ones we pay attention to.
size even an important factor when deciding if an animal is a bird or a dinosaur?
Well,
Okay, the question's fundamentally flawed, or the concept is fundamentally flawed because birds are taxonomically dinosaurs. They did descend from them. They carry all the diagnostic traits of dinosauria, as well as their own specializations that make them what we call birds. That's how evolution works. But of course, you don't comprehend that at all because you're fucking creationists.
we get that comment a lot, very, very often. They say, well, those animals aren't too big to be birds.
Yeah, we do. We get that comment regularly.
Size is effectively irrelevant. It's all about other diagnostic traits. Size can become a factor in speciation, but at that point you're still branching downward. You're not breaking cladistics, you're not breaking monophyly. It's still whatever its descendants or its ancestors were. The descendants are whatever the ancestors were. So this is completely nonsensical.
And we usually think of dinosaurs as these huge animals and birds as these little animals. So let's see, what are some of the bigger dinosaurs?
Wow, yeah. That one, it's a big one. That's a Spinosaurus. It's 46 feet long. It's really, really big. And then we have the next one that a lot of people know, the Tyrannosaurus, which is 43 feet long. It's not that smaller compared to the Spinosaurus.
Where are the feathers? My dinosaurs are supposed to generally have feathers. It's my understanding that at this stage that T-Rex did have some small amounts of plumage. I don't know much about this Spinosaurus, but it sure as hell looks like it should have feathers. Looks Raptor-esque to me. Just saying. I'm not the best when it comes to dinosaurs. They're definitely cool though. But, could be mistaken. But, yeah, feathers. I expect to see him at least on T-Rex.
Look at the size of his head.
It's really big.
It's like, his skull's like 4 feet long. It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's really big.
Hey, you be nice. Stop talking about his big head, alright? Thought you guys were supposed to be the good guys. You're being all mean.
Have the Allosaurus, which is, you can say, well, it's only 32 feet long when you compare with the Spinosaurus. But if you have come here to the Creation Museum to see the Allosaurus specimen that we have, that thing is big, which just brings us the picture of how.
Okay, yeah, I just had to look it up. Current accepted idea is that all Tyrannosaurs had feathers. Smaller species like Dylon would have been covered with them. The adult T-Rex probably just patches for display. Which, that's just so fucking awesome to imagine it or to see artistic renditions of this. It's just so fucking cool. And what's one of the critical diagnostic features of birds? Feathers. So dinosaurs having feathers, and them being the only predecessor creatures to have feathers, should tell you quite a bit. But of course, that's if you're honest and accept science properly instead of perverting it to your own means and ends like these guys do.
How big those animals, those dinosaurs were.
So we've got some big dinosaurs here. What about birds? Well, here's your regular backyard blue.
Okay, and I just looked up the Spinosaurus, genus of reptiles. It didn't quite look like what they're showing there, but well, I guess kinda from the art I'm seeing. I'm not seeing feathers. I see one of the oh god, what do you call it? The protrusion on the back. You know, this ventral. It's a ventral or dorsal, I can't remember. This ventral fin affair, to be very, very crude in how I describe it. Um, that's the thing I hate is being interested in this stuff, but not so totally obsessed that I like study every single bit of it. So it's like, damn, I know things, but I can't articulate them. But that's fine because again, I'm being honest with myself, and at least I can demonstrate I get the concepts, as opposed to what we have presented here.
Blue jay. I think he needs to be careful where he flies right now.
Yeah, that is true. Not safe.
Here's a crow. And here's a chicken. And a goose. Now geese can be kind of scary.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've ever been
Yeah, you're talking at base 100+ million years of divergence, and I forget what it is. Nothing with a body mass of maybe like 10 or 20 pounds, I think, survived the Cretaceous boundary extinction. It might be smaller than that, but it was very low body masses is all that survived. So, granted, we've definitely upscaled since then, and most creatures, well, not most creatures, but a lot of creatures have upscaled since then. It's perfectly sensible to think that the smaller, modest sizes would have continued, especially for creatures that are generally avian. Because, when you square up, when you increase the size, you square the mass that's there. If you double the size of a chicken, you quadruple its mass. It stops being able to fly. Not that they can really fly well anyway, but I'm just saying. Birds. You don't want big ones.
chased by a goose, that's scary.
I have.
That's a big chicken. And chickens can get pretty big. But they do come in smaller sizes as well.
That's why we're going to go to the Ariat Ridge Zoo at the Ark Encounter to see some living birds.
Oh, yeah. The Ark Encounter. Oh, Ken Ham's boat-like building that charges like $50 admission and was funded by government funds in the area via a combination of tax breaks and some other incentives. Yeah, that thing. That's usually empty as fuck. In fact, I don't see too many people in this wide shot. Oh, look, you've got like a whole class or two, like a whole private school going. Wow. Yep, that's real busy.
So, Karina, we've got...
Hey. YouTube has a rule against showing cocks. I'll just leave you all to unsubscribe. If you're still here, good. Let's continue.
so many comments, Dr. Haynes and I have, that birds are dinosaurs. So is this chicken a T-Rex?
You'll not believe how many times I have been told that or asked that here at the zoo. But no, this chicken is not the descendant of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's just a bird. His name is Rollo. He's actually a Malaysian Serama chicken, which is the smallest breed of chicken in the world. So he's pretty tiny, but not all chickens are tiny. So
that is a real pretty chicken. That's a beautiful creature right there. And yeah, they are dinosaur descendants. Not necessarily Tyrannosaur, but they are. They still meet the diagnostic criteria of dinosaur. Accurately define a dinosaur, and you define bird in the same way that if you accurately define a mammal, you define humans. If you define an ape, you define humans. That's how it works. It's how cladistics works. It's beautiful science. Immaculate.
Malay chickens can actually grow to be 3 feet tall, and Jersey Giants can weigh over 10 pounds.
Wow.
And these guys are actually in the same created kind as Indian peafowl and turkeys, which get quite large.
As you can see,
How did you determine this? What criteria did you use to define this kind and how it fits in? I thought all birds were a kind. Now we've got kinds of birds. So where does the nested hierarchy stop? At what point do things stop being related in these kinds? Because you look through, the evidence. I'm going to use the word fossil record, even though I know some creationists, hate that. If you see that these things existed and you end up seeing that, hey, there's a point where we stop being able to distinguish major features between this kind and that kind, you reach a bit of a problem, don't you?
it's just the little ones, but also can go big, but
Yes.
it's still the same kind. It's still
They're
chickens.
still birds.
Well, the Kent Hovind argument. You got big chicken, little chicken, either way, it's still a chicken. Wow, I expected something better. I mean, the production value's better, but that's just because they spent more on cameras. That doesn't mean their arguments are any better.
Yeah, still birds.
Yeah, so just because a bird gets bigger doesn't make it a dinosaur.
No.
That's not the diagnostic criteria, buddy. You just... What y'all do all the time is just lie. Just make shit up constantly. It's amazing how much one has to lie to defend religion. And the more strongly you defend religion, and the more dogmatic and literalist you take religion, the more you have to lie. It's like an exponential growth to where all you do is lie. It'd be a fascinating study if it weren't for the fact that for some reason calling out religion on the bullshit it is taboo in most of the world. It's almost as if the majority of people happen to be religious and get really mad when someone comes and tells them, yeah, your magic made up bullshit is magic made up bullshit. Funny how that works.
So Karina and Tom, what's that?
This is Luna. She's a Eurasian eagle owl. They're one of the largest owls in the world.
Wow.
I happen to really like birds on a whole, honestly, and owls are fucking awesome. I mean, just all your birds of prey are really, really special. Really beautiful. Just adore them. Oh, man. You think the amount I like them, I would have studied further into them, but again, some reason it didn't click with me. It's not the same as, like, let's say, the Gemini program back in the mid-'60s. I know that inside out. I know the launch procedures for the Titan II GLV. At least vaguely enough. Because that stuff, has like a hypnotic hold on me. But other stuff, I like it. It's really cool. But I'm not, super in-depth in it. And I hate that because when this stuff comes up, I feel like I'm unprepared to talk about it. But I know that my core understanding is correct, even if I can't articulate myself as well as someone who has freshly studied these things or specializes in this exact field, in the same way that I would, like space history, rocketry, etc.
What group of birds is she a part of?
So she's part of the true owl created kind, which belongs to a group of
True owl created kind. Okay, who defined this? How do you define a true owl? What separates it from a not true owl? And what separates it from other bird kinds? You just make it up as you go along, don't you?
of birds we generally call raptors. They're a type of bird of prey. It includes
That's a funny thing to think about right there, that we have the bird raptor and we have the dinosaur raptor. So, really, we have the modern dinosaur raptors and the older raptors, but it all kind of nests together. Yeah, granted, that's just what we're calling them, but it really should make you think that we decided to go with that kind of classification for reasons. I may be reading a bit too deep into it, but I don't think I am. Just saying, it's a funny little coinkydink there, isn't it?
things like hawks, eagles, ospreys, owls, vultures, and more. So the term raptor just means to seize or grab, and it refers to those powerful talons, those feet there. So Luna actually has a grip of 750 pounds per square inch. So compared to a human's bite, which is just 150 pounds per square inch, it's very powerful.
Wow.
So when most people hear the word raptor, they think of a dinosaur.
Yes.
But she's not a dinosaur.
She's not a dinosaur. She
Except she is.
is a bird. She's got lots of characteristics that distinguish her as a bird versus a reptilian dinosaur. So she's got feathers, obviously you can see those beautiful feathers. She even has feathers all the way down to the tips of her toes there. And all those feathers actually help muffle her sound as she's sneaking up on prey in our fallen world, so they actually can't hear her.
In our fallen. Oh, man. Now, okay, I knew that to work at Ken Ham's little Ark Encounter, you had to be like full-blown creationist. But man, they're freebasing the Kool-Aid. Holy shit. Not even Kent works this stuff in this much. He at least talks about things in a reasonable way. For him, I should say. But this, they're just layering it on. It's a fucking creationist bukkake over here. Whew. Do not want.
Coming. She's also got those beautiful wings for flight designed with swivel wrists to allow her wings to open and close naturally.
Designed, yeah. Interesting that she doesn't have arms and that the bone structure in the wings happens to match the standard tetrapod digit layout. You know, almost as if the wings are heavily altered arms. Funny how that works. You know, you never see centaurs on Earth. You don't see something specially created like that. Everything, for some reason, looks to be a modified form of other things. Or we can find evidence of intermediate forms between one thing and another. Almost as if everything is related and there's a trackable lineage of development going back through the millennia. Oh, but I forgot. Some book says a thing.
She's got very powerful chest muscles and muscle attachments that allow her to support her body weight in the air. And her whole body is actually filled with air sacs to allow her to breathe and have air flow through her while she's flying. It keeps her nice and light. She's got hollow pockets in her bones that also keep her light.
Hey, you know what else had hollow bones? This is going to blow your mind. Many species of dinosaur. Wonder why? Maybe to help, you know, cut down on the weight of their relatively massive size. It also just happens, when you combine that with the properties of feathers, that you get a creature that can glide and maybe at a point just straight up take off to powered flight. Funny.
Big as she is, she only weighs about 5-6 pounds, as I mentioned. So she's perfectly designed for being a bird and living a bird's lifestyle. So she's really big, but she is not a dinosaur.
How big does
Except she is, and I'm going to keep saying that.
some of the other raptors get?
So there are some very large raptors in our world. Condors are one of the largest flying birds in the world. They can weigh over 20 pounds, have close to 10-foot wingspan. Stellar sea eagles up in Russia, they have a 9+ foot wingspan, massive eagles. Harpy eagles down in South America, 7 to 8 foot wingspan, and their talons are as long as grizzly bear claws. So raptors do get enormous today, but they're still birds.
Well, this
And birds are a subset of dinosaurs.
one is big enough for me. It just keeps looking at me. I was like, please don't look at me.
She's just looking around her environment. She has an awesome sense of sight. She's got awesome binocular vision. She can see over a football field away. So she's just looking around.
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
This just in. Creature that spends its life hunting small prey from above has really good vision. Film at 11.
Yes.
Beautiful, big
Yes.
bird.
I mean, I love being talked to like I'm some kind of fucking moron. You know, and I get this is probably made for middle school level, maybe towards high school level, or, you know, young adults who aren't the most educated and would absorb information more like this than they would through, you know, a more cold encyclopedic format, but still.
So just because she's big and has the name Raptor doesn't make her a dinosaur.
She is not a dinosaur. She is a bird.
Those are not the criteria for defining what is and isn't a dinosaur. A Birds carry all the diagnostic traits of dinosaurs, ergo they are Dinosauria. We have verified their descent from avian dinosaurs. I'm gonna keep repeating it because it's a fact and it's fucking amazing. I mean, is this all this is gonna be? Them just beating around the bush, showing a bunch of different birds and being like, "Oh, still a bird. Yep, still a bird." Is that the best you got? Show me something. Seriously. Phylogeny challenge that R and Rob put out. Show a form of life that would definitively be a distinctive creation and shows no relation to anything else out there. Then we'll talk. Otherwise, you've got jack diddly shit.
So Karina, here we have some weird birds. So what are those?
These are marabou storks. Their name are Zuri and Rembo. So marabou storks are actually the largest members of the stork-created kind. And we do get a lot of guests saying they look like...
So there's a stork kind now. It's almost as if it's, they're just using it like a genus slash, overgrouping species kind of definition. Which is about all it ever is, but, they always want to roll it back when convenient or narrow it down when convenient, as they're doing here, so.
Like living dinosaurs, but they're birds, they're storks, but they are really, really big birds.
How big do they get?
So the largest verified wingspan of a marabou stork was about 10.5 feet, but we think they can get over 13 feet in wingspan, and they can weigh up to 20 pounds, so big birds. Now they can still fly. They do spend a lot of their time on the ground. They're scavengers and opportunistic hunters. So they've got those bald heads, like a lot of vultures to keep them clean as they're scavenging. But they can get up in the air despite their size.
So a lot of people think of birds as animals that fly all the time, but that's not true of these birds, is it?
Nope, not necessarily. There's a lot of birds that spend...
Okay, see, that right there is... Now they're just dropping into elementary school territory, because anyone who remotely knows anything about birds beyond the ones you see like in your front yard or something would know there's birds that don't fly, like the ostrich or the penguin, and that there's going to be ones that rarely fly. Or the chickens they showed earlier, those guys really can't get in the air too well. They can kind of hobble around for a bit, kind of catch a little air, but that's also... probably some selective breeding getting in there and messing with that. I'm not entirely sure. But the point is, anyone who's remotely aware of the diversity of birds will know about birds that don't always fly or can't fly. So that isn't anything new to anyone above the age of, 7.
Spend a lot of time on the ground.
And another thing that people think is birds are little, little, not that heavy. And then when we come here to the zoo.
But once again, the fucking ostrich. If you know about ostriches, which I think a lot of people do, they learn about those birds pretty young, because they're usually referenced somewhere in pop culture, presuming, your kids aren't raised on TikTok and YouTube shorts and meme-filled skibbity garbage. Point is, they would learn about ostriches, like the whole sticking your head in the sand thing, just cultural references would end up teaching them, hey, there's this really big bird that also doesn't happen to fly. Or just going to a local zoo that has, animals like that. The Memphis Zoo, I'm 99% sure has ostriches. We got a lot of cool stuff at our zoo. That's one of the few good things about this city. I should do a video there sometime. It's been a long time since I went. Maybe I'll go soon, I don't know.
We just see them really big
Yes.
wingspan, and all those things that it kind of help us to understand that it doesn't need to be small to be a bird.
Correct, yeah, and there are birds that get even bigger than this than fly. So the birds with the largest wingspans are going to be your albatrosses and your pelicans. We also have really heavy flying birds. You've got your condors, swans, bustards, turkeys. They can get 30, 40, 50 pounds even heavier, and they're still getting up in the air. So they can be big and still get airborne.
But just because they're big and they look a little funky doesn't mean they're dinosaurs.
No.
Again, not a diagnostic criteria. Define dinosaur, and you wind up defining bird, as I've already said.
Nope, they're birds, they're just storks.
Karina, it's a beautiful day, sunny, but here we have something right there.
Yes, we've got Petra and Sinai. There are 2 female emus.
There you go. Fucking emus. I mentioned ostriches earlier. There you go. Emu. Big flightless bird. This has to be made for fucking children. There's no way around it. But this is presented like something of a higher level. Let me just take a detour for a minute. No, the description doesn't say anything about it being for children or anything, being children's programming. Tickets to Beyond Bones available to purchase. It's not made for kids, so it's definitely content made for kids, but not made for kids in the YouTube toggle. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been bamboozled. No, I wanted to continue. I hit the minimize or the exit full screen we're just gonna stop here. We're done here, and it's like, wait, no, I want to continue.
They're the second tallest birds in the world.
Wow.
So these guys can get about 6.5
First tallest bird is my middle finger whenever Kent Hovind says something stupid.
feet tall and weigh close to 120, sometimes a little bit more pounds. And in the emu world, the girls are bigger than the boys. So we've got the girls here, so big birds behind us.
That's really big. Can
Yeah.
they fly?
They cannot fly. No, they're flightless birds, but they do still have wings. Their wings are only about this big.
Yeah, because that's a diagnostic trait of birds. That's one of the things that distinguishes them from the clade they descended from, Dinosauria. So any of this sinking in yet? No, didn't think so.
And they are actually tipped with claws.
Most people don't know that some birds have claws on their wings.
Yes, there's quite a lot of birds that actually have claws on their wings, and a lot of these big flightless birds do as well.
So you can't use claws as a way to determine that an animal's a dinosaur or a bird.
Correct, yeah.
Except you actually can, because that diagnostic trait is an evolutionary leftover. And in the case of emus, as R and Ra used to own an emu and likes to bring up the completely useless claws it has, they're not actually attached to anything other than just flesh. There's not musculature or bone or much bone there to do anything with it. It's just flapping in the breeze, pun intended. So it is a massive vestige from the from its ancestors, and that's a fine example of evolution right there. Because contrary to what all the creationists say, evolution isn't having to gain something; it's just change. And you'd expect something that's atrophying to take many, many generations to just whittle away.
Yes, and even though they aren't flying, their wings do still have uses. So our emus here, they're very, very fast. They can run up to 35 miles an hour, and those wings kind of act like little rudders to help them stop and turn on a dime if they need to, even at those top speeds.
Yep, that's adaptation for you. Feature isn't too useful for what would be its main purpose as we think of it. Still useful in other ways. Of course, those wings originally, here's the cool thing about them. They would keep the eggs warm. That's where wings proved beneficial. They'd help keep eggs warm. So, Dinosauria that had wings survived a little better. And, yeah. This is what we got after a good 100 million years. One of many, 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 many species. Descended from those that managed to survive the KT extinction. Aren't they just lucky? Just like us. Descended from creatures that managed to survive a literal hell on Earth. One of many that this planet's had through its history. Life finds a way.
Are they the biggest flightless bird today?
Nope, there's actually one that's bigger than these guys and taller, and those are the common ostriches. So the common ostriches are the largest extant birds, the birds alive today, and they can get 9 feet tall and weigh up to 350 pounds.
And they will fuck you up in a fight. So do not fight an ostrich. I don't know firsthand. I just know, looking at it, it'll fuck you up. Your day is ruined. Your week is ruined. Your whole year might be ruined if you fuck with those things. So don't do it. Or do it all you want. I don't care. I'm not the boss of you.
And they can also run very fast, up to 45 miles an hour. And those wings that the ostriches have are used for multiple purposes. One, again, to help them steer while they're running that quickly. They can still stop and turn on a dime with those wings. They're also used in courtship displays, and they're used to help cool them off. They live in very warm environments as well. So yes, ostriches can get quite big, but they are still birds.
That's huge.
It's interesting because we find even bigger birds in a fossil record.
That's true.
Ladies and gentlemen, this just in. Creationists acknowledge the fossil record. Film at 11.
So we just saw emus at the Ararat Ridge Zoo at the Ark Encounter. This is how big they are. Ostriches are even larger, up to 9 feet tall.
Wow.
Really large.
That's a lot.
We also saw the marabou stork at the zoo. And the ones we saw were a little smaller. This one's a pretty big one, but they do get pretty big, and they're even more impressive when they fly. So marabou stork has an 8.5-foot wingspan.
That's a lot.
That's a big bird. Not the biggest flying bird, though. Andean condor is one of the heaviest flying birds. Almost 11-foot wingspan.
So, I mean, we all see what they're doing here, right? They're going to show some modern bird species and show some mid-era conventional dinosaurs, tyrannosaurs, and the like, and just be like, these don't look the same. They can't be related. You know, completely not showing feathers and totally not showing the smaller species that clearly, smaller dinosaur species that were clearly, you know, on the way to becoming what we'd now identify as a bird.
Just huge.
That is massive.
So we've got some big birds today, but how about the fossil record?
Well, on the fossil record, you're going to find some scary birds.
Oh, let's see if they fuck up and show something that's a nice, solid transitional example. I mean, every species is a transitional species by definition, but from the context that they think of things as.
And the first one is the Dinosaur. Look at this thing. It's 12 feet tall.
That is
12
huge.
feet tall.
Yeah, and what time period is it from? Is it from before or after the KT event? I'm going to look that up real quick. Give me a moment. I'm doing this live. Hang on, let's go back to Wikipedia. Dinornis. Extinct genus of birds. Extinct circa 1500, so they're relatively modern. Again, relatively modern.
My husband is almost 6 feet tall. So that means that's double of my husband stacked up. Just the size of this bird. We have this idea that birds are just actually really small, but those birds are there just to kind of help us to.
Yeah, went extinct circa 1500, so very, very recent, and to an extent that they really wouldn't be in the fossil record unless they were a pretty long-lived species that didn't have much selection pressure for a long time. So, you know, for it to be in the fossil record, it has to be a fossil. Otherwise, it's just, well, I don't know what you actually call it. Because, you know, it's like anthropology, but for the animals. So, you know, you don't find fossil humans, at least not modern humans. You know what I mean. You know, there's dividing lines between how you classify the sciences, but the fact remains it wouldn't be the fossil record.
Picture how big those birds can actually be.
Yeah, he's huge.
And then we have the next one was the
Oh my goodness.
Argentavis, which has 21 foot
Yeah, Argentavis. What about it?
wingspan. That's just massive.
That is giant.
Would you go outside with something
I
flying
would not
around?
go outside. That is so terrifying.
Yeah, I would not go outside. It's just really, really big. So it's just interesting to see that, yes, birds can actually be really, really big.
Yeah, those are some huge birds.
That is true.
So it really breaks the conception that we have of birds being these tiny
Right.
animals.
Yes.
So we know dinosaurs can get big, but some dinosaurs are small. Like this guy, Coelophysis, 10 feet long, so still a pretty big animal, but compared to these other dinosaurs, relatively small. Or this guy, Sinosauropteryx, 3.5 feet long. He's way smaller. Isn't he cute, Gabby? Don't you want to just touch him?
No, I do not want to touch it. No, not at all. Sinosauropteryx is a very well-known dinosaur because it's the
I mean, see, they're just going with the flow. It's like we're gonna show all these dinosaurs that aren't related to birds because that would cause a problem if we showed the ones that actually are clearly related because, you know, they exist. You're just gonna pretend they don't.
first known as having feathers, but it actually does not have any feathers. It has filaments.
Lies. Also, filaments would be the predecessors to feathers. We know the entire process of how feathers evolved. Those are prototypical feathers, and plenty of dinosaurs did have proper feathers. So even if this thing had just filaments, it's still on the way to being a feather, as we would see in later species. This is rocket science. It's just evolution. Oh, right, I forgot. Some books says a thing.
Because of evolutionary ideas, they're redefining the word feather to add filament. But filament is something very, very different from a feather. So Sinosauropteryx does not.
Yeah, because filament is a predecessor to a feather. We try to refine things. The scientific method, that's what it does. It refines its understanding of things. So if something needs to be reclassified or nuance applied, then we do it. Again, nuance, something that creationists completely do not understand at all, or the value of addressing nuance in bettering our understanding of relatively complex subjects when you look at it in a broad sweep versus looking at individual facets. The nuance matters.
Have feathers. It only has filaments. So that's something very important to be said about Sinosauropteryx. But even though we just said
Okay, and again, all the other feathers that have dinosaurs that have feathers. What about them? Oh yeah, like the T-Rex that you don't show the feathers on. Velociraptor. You know you're not showing Velociraptor.
like, oh, only 3 feet long, that's still a big good size, you know, for a dinosaur. Of course, comparing to others, they're really, really small.
And much like you picking your husband, size is irrelevant. I'm sorry for that one, but I had to. It's so late in the video. I thought I might be able to put a little shitty zinger in there. If I offended anyone, I apologize. Except her. If I offended her, I don't care.
Which shows that we can have gigantic dinosaurs, but also little ones.
Yep. And we've got some other animals that are supposed feathered dinosaurs. The first one of these we've talked a lot about is Microraptor. He's a dromaeosaur. Another one.
Huh. He's a what? A dromaeosaur? Huh. So, you're trying to say it's literally not what it is. Is this cognitive dissonance? Because I think this is cognitive dissonance.
Talked a little bit about is Caudipteryx. This is an oviraptorosaur. And we've also got a troodontid named Jianian Huanlong. And all three of these are found with feathers in the fossil record.
Yeah, because they're dinosaurs that had plumage. Sorry. Facts are the facts.
But how do we know they're birds and not dinosaurs?
We actually
How do we know they're birds and not dinosaurs? Wouldn't the question have been how do we know they're dinosaurs and not birds? But it just hit me as I'm saying this. I see what you're saying. It's like, how do we, as in us creationists, know they're not dinosaurs but birds?
have to rely on anatomy. We cannot rely on size because
And size isn't a defining factor, so shut the fuck up about it. You fucking nonce.
as we have seen here, we have really big dinosaurs, but we also have
Blah, 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 blah,
small
blah, blah,
dinosaurs.
blah.
We also have
Get to the fucking
little
point.
tiny birds, but we also have really, really big birds.
Really big birds.
Alright, so we've established size doesn't matter. I just told you, you had that opinion picking your husband. Get to the point. Because you're not saying anything.
So size cannot be a good criteria
We get it.
for us to tell the difference between what is a dinosaur and what is a bird. We have to rely on anatomy, and we have to go back to 3 features. The first one is feathers.
Feathers. Real feathers.
Not filaments.
Yep.
That's something very, very important. The second one
I'm a creationist, so I just get to define things as I see fit.
is swivel wrist, so make it possible
Yeah, to fold the wing.
to fold the wing.
Right.
And the third one is the shorter tail. Right here, this dinosaur, look how long the tail is. Look how much heavy muscle tail it has. But when you go to those birds
Yep.
right there,
That's shorter.
Funny they don't show the, let's step back just a hair. They don't point out that the Sinosauropteryx right there has a relatively short tail. I mean, it's still pretty long compared to the body size, but it is shorter. And that there were plenty of, pretty big species that had relatively short tails and vice versa. Almost as if branching occurred. And that not all dinosaurs were the same. And that specialization happened. Uh-oh. You know what that is? I know it's scary, but that's the hard fucking fact of evolution showing itself yet again.
tail it has. But when you go to those birds
Yep.
right there,
That's shorter
they
tails.
do not have this long, full of muscle tail. They have
And I love seeing, Archaeopteryx where it has a reasonable tail. I mean, it's no honking behemoth because at that point the tail had already atrophied, but it's still got something pretty impressive back there.
a shorter tail, and that's one of the biggest difference between dinosaur and bird. And you can see that all of the birds going to have those 3 features.
Yeah.
None of those dinosaurs is going to have those 3 features.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
See, it's funny that the gap that they're physically standing in, if you were to put the species that go there in a transition from Dinosauria to avian birds and show the branch that survived the KT boundary and developed into our modern birds, the branches, I should say, the species that survived, not branches, sorry, me and English not getting along today, it would actually show pretty well exactly how we got our birds. Because here's another funny thing, is that there aren't birds in the fossil record going back to the dinosaur era. You find bird-like dinosaurs, but you don't find birds. They only come afterwards. That's a weird thought, too, that if you were to travel back to the age of dinosaurs, you would hear lots of crazy calls from the dinosaurs and other animals going around, but you wouldn't hear birds. No bird chirps or anything. I don't know what some of the dinosaurs, like the smaller ones, might have sounded like. They might have sounded like some birds. I don't know. But it's just an interesting thought. I mean, you go back far enough, there's no grass. That's a weird thought. All these plants around, but there's not grass. We got some club moss, but it's not grass. History of the planet's pretty wild. History of life. Beautiful stuff. Super complicated, and I love it. I just wish I knew more of it off the top of my head and could articulate it better. But that's why I enjoy listening to Aaron Ra, because he's sharp as a razor on these things, whereas I am like a brick, just blunt, powering through, like I'm powering through this video. Let's get this over with.
Matter if they're big dinosaurs or small dinosaurs, big birds or small birds.
No.
Yeah.
The size is not going to add the feature or it's going to delete the feature. Not at all.
Yep. So
Yeah, we've said 100 times, the size doesn't matter with the classification of bird or dinosaur. It's other taxonomic features.
evolutionists are trying to tell us that birds are just another type of dinosaur. But in God's Word, we learn that God created land animals on day 6 of creation week. And he created the winged fowl on day 5 of creation week. And so these are very different types of animals. And we just
No, they're not. And as I always say, I don't give a flying fuck what your book of fairy tales has to say. I care about what's actually evident. And every bit of evidence points towards birds being directly descended from avian dinosaurs. Period.
talked about some of the differences here.
Right.
Now, some people get confused because there are some big representatives in the Dromaeosaur and the Oviraptorosaur families. And so people get confused, like, could those actually be birds? Well, we've been doing some very interesting research on some of these bigger animals.
Lies.
And if you want to learn more about that, come to our Beyond Bones conference this September.
Ooh, we're gonna shell our crap. It's time to sell our junk in September of 2024. Okay, that's past. When was this put up? Okay, it was August. Still, I thought it was a relatively recent video. So, well, that's what I get for going to the Answers in Genesis YouTube channel. And that's it for this video. You know the score. If you liked, be sure to give it a like. If you aren't subscribed, you might consider. I do these kinds of videos often, much to the detriment of my mental health. But that's okay. I can take a little damage for the sake of comedy. Yeah. If you feel like supporting the channel, there are links down below, also to other side projects of mine you might find enjoyable. Whatever case, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. You're fucking awesome. Except you, Ted. Nah, you're okay. But yeah, seriously, you're awesome for watching this far. I appreciate it. Catch all of you next time.